KMOJ, Minneapolis, St. Paul, bringing unity to the community. 89.9 KMOJ, the People Station.
This is FM 89.9 KMOJ. We are the People Station. Good morning and welcome to the program, The African Roots Connection. My name is Charles Dennis and we have our Jerome standing by in our newsroom. Shortly we'll bring you news headlines and thereafter we'll get into our discussion on the program this morning. And this morning we have a very interesting author of the book, Kingdom of Africa. You don't want to miss this. Benedict Kuah will be here with me. We'll take a break as usual at 9:30, at which time we'll bring you news details with our Jerome again. And then we'll continue with Benedict Kuah until about 45 minutes past the hour. Then we'll bring in our second guest on the program, and she is Executive Director and founder of the Courage Foundation. She is Miss Lois Kanga. She's hosting a fundraiser at the African Food Market today to help raise funds for the disabled children in Liberia. And for the best in programming, keep your dial set on FM 89.9 KMOJ. We are the People Station. Don't forget, we also stream it live on KMOJFM.com, and also you can see our live video stream at esteempictures.com.
In our top story today, the United Nations Food Agency has called a special meeting of policymakers to discuss the recent rise in global food prices. The executive director and founder of the Courage Foundation, Ms. Lois Kanga, is calling on all persons of goodwill to support the disabled, especially the children. The Supreme Court of Liberia on Tuesday handed down an opinion in the controversial fuel theft case involving the general manager of the Duke of Petroleum and official of the Liberia Electricity Corporation, the LEC. And the International Organization of Migration says the lack of proper handling of trafficking cases continues to undermine the prosecution of those cases in Liberia. And this one just coming to say police have fired rubber bullets and tear gas at protesters in parts of the Mozambican capital, Maputo. Al Jerome Chidi, I'm back at the middle of the hour with details.
FM 89.9 KMOJ, we are the People Station. A song by Hugh Masakila, a son from Africa. A tune called La Conte from his album Hope. And welcome to the program. As usual, I'm Charles Dennis. Our Jerome is standing by our newsroom to bring you up-to-date news from the African continent. Today we have as our guest on the program author of a very interesting book, something that I was very, very impressed with. The book is entitled Kingdom of Africa. Today we'd like to welcome to our studio Benedict Kuah. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to come here this morning to talk about my book.
You're welcome, Benedict. It's a pleasure to have you. Now, your book's title, Kingdom of Africa, when I first saw it, it put me in the political realm, and I thought I was going to read about, the wars of Africa, the struggle of power. Your book depicts that, but you took another angle.
And I think that is one avenue that we haven't explored to its fullest. And when I thought about this project, I really decided that, you know what, don't always sit and cry about something, do something.
Right.
And that is why I really chose to focus the book on what I did.
Okay. How long did it take you to put this book together?
Well, I started in 2007,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, so that's 3 years.
So, did you find it very challenging or easier to write a book about the mythology of Africa?
Oh, it was easy.
It was
You
easy.
see, come on, I grew up, as you know,
Right.
in Africa. I grew up by the fireside
Uh huh.
in the evening, and with a family like mine,
The stories.
the stories when you are roasting corn,
Yeah.
right,
All right.
and everybody have these little tidbits,
Uh huh.
and it's so rich, but we don't put that down in writing your books. We just talk about them and they disappear. And when I turn and I look at my daughter, she's poorer for it, right? Because she loses a part of herself, and people tell her who she is,
Mm-hmm.
and that is not her. And she would accept that. She might accept that because what does she have? She doesn't know the history. What is out there has been written by, let me put it this way, foreigners.
Mm-hmm.
So they lose their way.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, so do you connect identity with the history of Africa?
Who is your hero? Tell me your hero, and I will tell you how you view yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at a lot of young people growing up, and their heroes come from different backgrounds, no matter how hard they try, they cannot really identify with those heroes. And the person who is going to challenge them have a greater, how can I put it, a greater ownership of the hero that they are looking at. So if somebody is going to challenge you and you are looking at that person's hero, the hero that comes from that person's background, he or she is going to beat you every day.
Interesting. As you listen to these stories that your parents told you in by the fireside, you're roasting corn. What part of Africa was that?
The southern Cameroons, Bali,
Mm-hmm.
a Bantu people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would you consider that a rich heritage of the West or Central Africa, or the mixture of two combination?
It's really a mixture.
Okay.
It's really a mixture, but I do think that the theme is more universal than that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can tell you that you would, no matter where you come from, in the continent you identify with that.
Mm-hmm. But your book is so well put together, even just from the cover, and like I said, it competes with any Western published book. If I should walk by and see this book on the shelf, I would be very impressed. It's very catchy. The covering, the graphics, everything is I'll say up to standard. I know you said you've had rich histories, that form part of this book. Have you seen another book that's published about African mythology at this scale? I mean, I know we hear little stories by the fireside, and maybe someone might write a pamphlet or leaflet or two to just to preserve. But have you seen a published African story at this level?
Which is why I did that.
Mm-hmm.
Because out of the realm of academia, it's like searching for the Holy Grail. And when you look at the fact that right now, how ideas move within society, it's not really confined in academia. You have a lot of people out there that buy and sell information, and it's the majority of the population. And in that market, out of academia, out of anthropology studies, in that market, I think it is poor, our contribution to that market, the African contribution to that market.
Now, you think that contribution is poor because we do a lazy job, or because our story is not consumable?
For a continent that is the cradle and was the cradle of civilization, how can it not be sellable? So I don't buy that.
Okay.
I just think that it's more a mentality. A mentality of what you have is not good enough, and we have accepted that.
How do we change that mentality?
I think that we start by accepting the fact that we have been crippled. Slavery and colonialism took something away from us. And once we accept that and know it for what it is, I think that we are going to start expand that, we are more than how we have been depicted, because it is really funny that at this day and age, you still have an image of a people that are still trying to come into the realm of civilization in some quarters, right? That is still part of the idea that this continent is really a backward continent. They don't really have much to offer, and if that is existing today, it's not really the fault. It's not the fault of those who think that. I think that we really haven't battled with our ideas how we should have battled, because when my daughter picked that and look at it or read that, she would not be like, okay, the Greeks had Apollo, right? And she doesn't look at that mythology of Apollo, the sun god, and all of that, and that is her world. When she looks at all those myths, that is her world. She has nothing to offer. No, she does. She can turn back and do a comparison. Okay, you guys had Apollo, we had a lot town, and this is, and she might start asking the question, so, but where did this originate from? And then she might go into academia. She might look for academic book, anthropology studies, and look at that and say that, but some of the basis of these Greek gods were Africa, and then she walks down the street and knows that, what? The things that have occurred to me did not occur to me because I was less than anybody else. They occurred to me because of, it may be bad luck.
Right.
It may be it may be because my forefathers opened their arms and just accepted everybody at face value. You know, so
now that's a very interesting piece of information, analogy you just made as to how this book can really be useful to someone coming out of the continent, be it first or second generation. I'm sure people are anxious to know what this book is all about. So if you can give us a short synopsis of what Kingdom of Africa is all about.
It's really the evolution of man and the gods, because in Africa we had very active gods. You know,
We had or we have?
we have very active active gods.
Okay.
And so it's more an evolution. And so if you look at what I wrote about, you can draw a line in human evolution, and it's constant, although it changes, but it's constant. You have greed, suffering, you have triumphs, you have defeats. So all of that is a constant in human evolution. Those things don't change in every generation.
So writing about these gods that are coming out of Africa, what would you say they really did for Africa? What was the significance of the gods at that point or at this point in Africa?
You know, one of the things that I have noticed, even with the kingdoms that exist today in Africa, one of the things that I have noticed is how the setting, how they are, the distribution of power within the kingdom. And that was really intriguing for me, especially when I was doing this book. And I was like, my goodness, this was more than I had thought. The way that our society functioned. You had the king, then you had these various groups beneath them. Some that could depose the king. Groups that actually could depose a king in the kingdom if he really goes out of bounds. And then you have these the gods within that setting. And so I really think that what they did, they were the foundation of the kingdoms of Africa.
So when we look at the characteristics of Africans today, do you think that God, in any way, the gods shape the way we perceive society, the way we act?
No, the thing is, once they were destroyed, once the gods were destroyed, the foundation was kicked under us. Right?
Did they leave us with anything that would shape the way we act, the way we perceive one another, the way we interact with from one village to the next, the way we set up our political government or our governance?
The fun is that how could a people, a proud people, and a continent have, for the past and even now, be suffering from slavery to colonialism and to neo-colonialism that is prevalent in certain parts of Africa today? How could a proud people come to that? And so you have, first of all, they take away what you believe in. What you believe protects you and protects the village and protects the community.
So you're saying a God was destroyed by colonialism? Okay.
Once you get that out of the way, you can teach the people different beliefs.
Right.
You can tell them how poor they are.
So the void that was left from the gods was filled in by colonial ideas.
Totally.
Okay.
And
great, very, very interesting. So, what would you say the two opposing or the starring characters of your books? What are some of the characters?
Well, I followed the Gallagher's, and these are people mapped out for destruction.
The Gallagher's people.
Yeah.
Okay.
The people of banking. And their survival rests in them actually refusing to let go of their beliefs of their God. The minute they let go of that, they are done. So that is the main character, and these are the people of the Lord Tam. And then you get the actual lady of the earth, which is the Lady Tabinken. And she is the one who is looking at the earth and telling her husband, who is Tam, that you have the heavens to yourself. I cannot allow any person who worships you to live on earth. So I'm going to destroy anyone.
So basically, it was a war between the heaven and the earth.
Yeah.
The gods of the heaven and gods of the earth.
The gods of the heaven and the gods of the earth. And so,
was there a victory?
Now you are going to make
it's just a yes or no, so someone can read to find out.
You are going to as I say, it's basically human evolution.
Okay.
You get characters, powerful characters who, though powerful, they challenge the heavens. They challenge the heavens, and it's like the fight of the gods is not a fight of man. That is what one of the characters told the Gallagher, that these are gods. Why should we be fighting the battle of the gods? I mean, they are all powerful. They can do what they like. And that is why his dad explained to him that if they do that, then we are finished. Because the proportion of their power is so great. And that's when he started explaining to him how the earth came about. That if he looked at the earth was one, just a mass of land, right, from end to end. And it was the battle of the gods, because they were so powerful in their destructive force that they scattered the earth. And so you see people who are living in the same compound. Let us put it this way, apartment or the same house. The house will split into two, and the chasm, the distance between the two would be so wide that families were separated, and that's how we came about with the continents. So that's why what one of the Gallagher was explaining to his son, why he must respect the gods.
Okay. So the Gallagher is based what part of in the Cameroons? Would you refer to the Gallagher as from a country or region, or
this is really a work of fiction?
Okay.
it's a word of fiction, but it comes out of those stories I told you that I had by the fireside. So that comes out of them.
I see you must have really enjoyed writing this book.
Oh, it was something that was a long time in coming. Along the way, I have had this encouragement always to just get down and write.
Right.
To write. But the times that I could have done that, I was involved in my own battle of life and death.
Right.
As we try to throw off French colonialism out of Cameroon, out of the southern Cameroons and Cameroon. So that time was really just trying to to be alive, and so when I went on exile, I started thinking that I might have time, but it is all part of a struggle, you know. It is all part of what I look at as things missing, as things that needed to be done. And for a long time, I had passed the stage where I sit and expect somebody to do something for me. I really have this idea that if you think that there is something missing, you need to get up and do something. And I just think that in the realm of pleasure reading, of people really just sitting down and say that, let me read something nice and dynamic, I don't think that Africa has really put itself forward in a big way in that.
Okay. All right, Ben, we'd like to pause for news and we'll come right back to you. We'll talk more about the Kingdom of Africa. We're speaking with the author of that book. His name is Benedict Kuah. Shortly, Arjun will be here with news from the African continent.
The United Nations Food Agency has called a special meeting of policymakers to discuss the recent rise in global food prices. The announcement came after Russian Prime Minister Vladimir Putin extended the country's ban on grains exports on Thursday. This added to fears that prices of food staples will continue to rise. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization said the meeting will take place on September 24, probably in Rome. In the past few weeks, global cereal markets experienced a sudden surge in international wheat prices on concerns over wheat shortages. According to the British Broadcasting Corporation, the purpose of holding the meeting is for exporting and importing countries to engage in constructive discussions and appropriate reactions to the current market situation. The International Organization for Migration, the IOM, says the lack of proper handling of trafficking cases continues to undermine prosecution of those cases in Liberia. The counter-trafficking expert of IOM, Freddie Go, told Star Radio that it is regrettable there have been no convictions of perpetrators of trafficking in Liberia. According to Mr. Go, prosecutors often mix trafficking charges with criminal facilitation or extortion, making it difficult to convict persons found in the act. Police have fired rubber bullets and tear gas at protesters in parts of Mozambican capital Maputo. Elsewhere was calm, with shops and businesses reopening and long queues of people waiting to buy bread and petrol. There have also been clashes in the central city of Chimoy. 6 persons were shot by police there after protesters tried to stop markets from opening. The latest violence in Maputo has been in the suburbs of Benfica and Hulin on the city outskirts. However, the BBC Jose Tembe in the city says the clashes have been relatively minor, and police say they've restored order. There have been no details of the casualties, but 7 persons have died since the riots began, leading to an emergency cabinet session on Thursday. The protests began after the price of bread rose by at least 20% in one of the world's poorest countries. The Supreme Court of Liberia on Tuesday handed down an opinion in a controversial fuel theft case involving the general manager of Duke Petroleum and an official of the Liberia Electricity Corporation, the LEC. In his ruling, the Supreme Court reversed criminal court C's decision convicting Duke Petroleum manager Amos Brochures and Joseph Giddings of the LEC. The High Court acquitted the men on grounds that the state had no evidence to prove the theft case against them. Government during the trial in the lower court accused Brochures and Giddings of stealing 6,500 gallons of fuel intended for the LEC. Although the LEC testified that it received the fuel, the lower court still found the men guilty, spiking criticism from some quarters. Melvin Page of the Independent Civil Human Rights Center praised the Johnny Lewis bench for the sound decision. And finally, the executive director and founder of the Courage Foundation, Ms. Lois Kanga, is calling on all persons of goodwill to support the disabled, especially children. Mrs. Kanga emphasized that most disabled children are endowed with natural gifts and talents that can be developed if we give them our love and care. Director Kanga disclosed that her foundation will today host a major fundraising program to raise money to help provide textbooks, clothes, food, and other basic necessities of life for disabled children in Liberia. The program begins at 6 p.m. and ends at 9 p.m. today in the auditorium of the African Food Market, otherwise known as the Kwaku Store on Lakeland Avenue in Crystal. That would do it for news details. I'm back at the top of the hour with news headlines. My name is Al Jerome Cherry reporting.
This is FM 89.9 KMOJ. We are the People's Station. This is the program, The African Roots Connection. And coming up on this program on the 25th of September, it is, September, I think, we will have the Nigerian Association here in Minnesota. They will be telling us about plans for the celebration of the Independence Day. And talking about Nigeria, actually, we usually don't talk about economic news here, but amidst these economic crises globally, Nigeria actually reported a gain in the economic progress. The economy grew by 7%, and the prediction is will grow next year by double digit because of the political stability in Nigeria. For the past few years, investors are very attracted to Nigeria right now. That's one good news we'd like to highlight out of the continent. The economy of Nigeria is growing. It grew by 7% last year, and in the next coming year, it's projected that will grow by double digit. Not many countries in this world right now can talk about economic growth. This is FM 89.9 KMOJ. This is the program, The African Roots Connection. We are live online at KMOJFM.com. We're streaming, and also at Esteem Pictures. You can go and see a video clip of the entire program. We're here every Saturday from 9 to 10 on FM 89.9 KMOJ, the People's Station. And just in case you're up early some Saturdays, talk about the make it a date to listen to A Senior Perspective with Brother Milford. He comes on just before the African Roots Connection. He comes on at 8 o'clock from 8 to 9. And the African Roots Connection is from 9 to 10. Raz Bongo Jerry is here from 10 to noon. And DJ Divine is here with Hip Hop Classic from noon till 2. So you can see KMOJ has an array of programs just to fit your entertainment needs, education, and your health needs also. Don't forget, today there's a fundraiser at the African Food Market, and it's by a group headed by Ms. Lois Kanga, and she's the executive director and founder of the Courage Foundation. We're raising some funds for kids in Liberia, disabled children in particular in Liberia. So if you can give to a worthy cause this afternoon. We'd like to get back to our discussion right now. We're talking with Benedict Kuah. He's from the Cameroons, and he wrote this book. It's called Kingdom of Africa, and actually I'm proud of it because it gives the African version of mythology, which is something every time you talk mythology, you go to the Greek side and you talk about Apollo and Zeus and what have you. And I can testify because firsthand my son is into Greek mythology. But it's very, very encouraging to know that we do have a rich history in mythology in Africa also. But, when you talk about mythology, even on the Greek side, people say it's a myth, it's a fiction, it's imaginary. But there's this parable from Africa that say where there's smoke, there's fire. So if you look back, in some point in the earth, was this a reality? And maybe it faded away and people hung on to this oral tradition or this oral history. And because there weren't tangible evidence and material to point to, people consider that a myth when the grandparents talk about it. So at some point, was this thing real, even Africa or in Greece?
One of the things that I really discovered is that your mythology might be somebody's reality.
Okay.
And I laugh sometimes when somebody might read something in the book and tell me that, wow, how did you think about this? And I'm like, that wasn't taught at all. Where I got it's the reality of the person who told me, you know. And so, yeah.
So at some point, you know,
Yes.
you agree. Well,
Yes.
you know, one thing when you talk about African history and mythology, they believe that the Western world through colonialism invaded the sacred seat of mythology and history, and sometimes blame the Western civilization for distorting or destroying or annihilating or kind of, you know, lowering the value of the history. Is that something you believe in also?
You know, it's not. This is not an academic exercise that we are doing.
Right.
This is the reality that people live today in Africa. So the books have not closed on what the Europeans are doing in Africa. So it's an ongoing thing. So anybody who thinks that they need to go to a library to explain some of this, no. Just open your eyes and see what is going on today.
Well, but if they live in the United States, can they really open their eyes and see from this perspective?
Well, I do think that we have allowed other people to tell our story, and if we don't push back against that, then our eyes will always be closed.
But you mentioned that you know, this is not something you go to the library and read about. But I think if we can have people like you who write enough about this, we can have, you know, a reservoir of knowledge that can be tapped into through the internet or the library. I think that's an exposure to us, that giving us some validation, you know, when it talks on the level of a Greek mythology as well, you know.
It sure does. It sure does. Because one of the things that Africans are not dumb. I mean, these are people who have undergone genocide in a proportion that no other race has faced, and they are still standing. Hundreds of years of that. And you might think that those things happen because they are dumb. No. One of the things that is going on is that, and when I talk about the colonialism going on in Africa, you look at a country like Cameroon, you look at a president like Paul Biya. He doesn't know any better than to be a French colonial officer, because of the books he have read, the schools he went to. Everything is designed that at the end of the line, at the end of his education, he looks out for the benefit of France. And that is all he knows. And that is how French education is designed. That's how colonial education was designed.
But that's a personal perspective. That's your perspective of it. Because somebody else will differ from you.
Sometimes
maybe his brother or his wife will say no.
The fun there is that you are entitled really to your own opinion, but not the facts.
Right.
When a president of Cameroon, when a president of France sits and taps the president of Cameroon on his shoulders and say that this is my good student, very good student, those are facts you can't run away from.
So, those who listen to this program right now are thinking about buying your book. Tell them a little story that would encourage them to buy this book. A little practical story, and maybe an extract from this book, but something very practical that would make them be like, you know what, I should give it a shot.
You know, one of the things that they are really going to, anybody who gets this book, it doesn't matter whether you come from an African background or not.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that you are going to get is a window.
Okay.
A window into how rich Africa is, how much Africa has to contribute to humanity, and how little so far they have contributed. I think that for anybody, that would be a very good starting point to get a window of just the reservoir of untapped contribution to humanity.
Are you gonna be doing a book signing soon?
Yeah, I'm working on that, and hopefully coming on to programs like this is going to help.
But I know you're on Amazon.com, because I look it up on Amazon.com.
Yeah, I am there. You can also go to on my website, which is bkuah.com.
Okay. And Kuah is spelled Kuah.
Kuah.
Okay.
Just B.
The letter B, Kuah. Right.
Yeah, bkuah.com. Barnes and Noble. So I am on most of those.
But you live in Minnesota, yes, so we would like to know when that book signing comes. We'd like to make it as grand as possible. We'd like to publicize it. We'd like to bring all of our friends there. We'd like to expose this rich history of the motherland. And, it's very, very encouraging to know we have a section of our history which is very rich in mythology, because that's important.
It is.
It's very important.
It is really rich.
All right, so Benedict, would like to thank you for your time this morning. It's been very educational. We learned a lot about a continent. That's what we strive to do here on the African Roots Connection, is just connect our roots, through education, through empowerment, entertainment.
I really appreciate the opportunity.
But you're going to be coming back, though, because we got to talk more. We got to talk about the book signing.
Anytime.
Yes.
Anytime.
All right. This is FM 89.9 KMOJ. We are the People's Station.
KMOJ, Minneapolis, St. Paul, bringing unity to the community. 89.9 KMOJ, the People's Station.